Wait for it to pop on up.
Will you just put in the Discord that we're live? It should be
Yep.
It should be popped up now.
Yeah.
Well, it
Volume
should be.
sounds
Let's
good.
see. Okay, good. Awesome.
All right.
Hello to everyone in the troll room.
Hello.
Hey,
hello.
second week in a row.
I know, right?
Up
It's been
in
a
the
while.
up in the standards.
Not too shabby, man.
I know.
How
I
was your
know.
past week?
Weird. It rained almost all week here, and so I was gonna say I only worked a half week. That's not really true. I just didn't physically go to the office.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I was still working, but a lot of that was from home, which was kind of nice. And I'm in the process of trying to, for all of my camera nerds, switch over camera systems. I have finally decided that after 20 years, about 20 years, I am finally going from Canon to Sony.
Why is that?
Well,
Because you love Spider-Man?
No. That
Kraven trailer really sold you, huh?
Oh, it was the Kraven trailer. Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I am kind of curious if that's filmed on a Sony camera. It would be interesting if they have some sort of like thing in the contract where it's like Sony movies that are like produced by Sony have to be filmed with
that'd be funny.
the Sony Venice. So wonderful camera, by the way, the Sony's cinema camera, the Venice. But that was not the reason. The reason basically boiled down to what I'm trying to accomplish with that stuff, and what was going to get me there reasonably priced, and what was going to offer me the most options as far as like once I, if I like say I was going to upgrade the body of my camera to a newer Canon, their lenses have, as far as like what they allow to be used on their camera bodies for all their mirrorless stuff, has gotten better over the last like 3 or 4 years, but it's still not as good as what Sony allows. And price wise for lenses, because if you guys don't know, lenses are incredibly expensive. The lens that I typically use on my current Canon is about double the price of what I paid for the body. So it's lenses are really, really expensive, and cameras start getting really expensive once you start getting into like that cinema line, those kind of specs. And so the one that I decided on is about a step up. It's like the second step up in their cinema line from their bottom level. And the reason I did that is because of like cropping on lenses. I won't get into all of that, but I wanted something that was full frame, just because I'm used to shooting on that. And their color, if you go like, I've been watching an insane amount of videos about this. What they call their color science, which is essentially is what the color is going to look like when it comes out of the camera, it's just better. Sony has finally kind of taken that step ahead of Canon in that, and I just have been very impressed with what they've done over the last few years with these upgrades. And so what that'll do is it'll get me into a new system. And I can start getting lenses. What up? Sorry, I'm late. Busy. Tell me how bad she is. Goodness. Hello, Jenna. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Jenna. Hey, Matt.
Fathers. Anyway, so yeah, I all of that to be said, it was not the hardest decision to make, but I'm kind of in the process of trying to like sell off some old gear and start moving in the direction of switching over that system, because it'll just open up a lot of opportunity for me. There's a lot of there's a lot of rooms. Sorry, Jenna's killing me. There's a lot of room for me to be able to potentially make a little bit of extra side money doing that too, because you can sell stock footage. The camera that I'm looking at is, and it doesn't mean a ton really, but it is like graded for Netflix, so that, or like it's approved by them, which means that you could shoot an entire movie on this camera, and at the very least, like the specs on it would potentially allow you to get on Netflix if that was your goal. So they have like certain standards
Specs
for that
their standard or work.
Yeah, because they're like minimum it has to be this, and this is one of the cameras
Nice.
that is like relatively cheap that you would be able to shoot like a full production on if you wanted to for something like that. So
We'll have to make a movie, David.
yeah, the only reason that was appealing to me is because you can essentially put that on your portfolio, and normal people will go, "Oh, that he's using a really good camera." Like that was my thought process with the drone that I got too, because I could have gotten a cheaper drone, but for certain clients, if you're not able to kind of like schmooze a little bit and be like, oh yeah, this is the kind of drone I use. Yeah, it's got 4K. Yeah, it does all, oh, look at this image quality. There's a lot of that goes into it when you're trying to sell yourself. Hello, Jake. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's good to see you. Man. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. It's just, I've been like,
sounds like a blast.
Oh, I know. I've been like on eBay trying to figure out like writing, numbers down to be like, okay, so roughly this is how much I can get this for. Here's how much I can probably get a lightly used lens for, and then I got to get all of this other stuff. I could literally do an entire hour about the process of picking out your camera, what you probably need depending on what you're shooting for. I'm actually thinking about I have a second channel. And I'm thinking about kind of doing some stuff like that. Like I shoot some sports. I want to go talk to one of the local skate parks here, and see if they'll let me do some stuff there, so I can keep working on my portfolio and some other things like that. So,
oh, dude, you know what else you could do for your portfolio? Is release videos on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, but that stuff's not gonna. It's just not the same.
I know.
Nobody's gonna care about that. Oh yes, client. Would you like to see my podcast?
Hey man, would you like to see my video? They got 500,000 views on YouTube. It could work.
And that's the thing is like you can, depending on who you're talking to, right? Potentially, you could sell that. Like if you were trying to get into video editing for someone, you'd be like, I have had content on YouTube, shorts, whatever the case may be, do this well. And sometimes numbers is the only thing that certain people care about, which is a double-edged sword, because if you can't reproduce that, then it's like, well, you did it for yourself. Why can't you do it for me? But also, you may be able to get some jobs off of that, get some experience off of that, depending on how you're selling yourself.
Well, I've been faking it till I make it so far. So
honestly, okay. Let me say this other thing too, because this is something, and I know you can appreciate this because it's something that is very relevant to what we do for the show. The idea of a professional, I think, has lost a lot of.
It's luster.
And
meaning
in the last let's just say since pre Rona. You have like, oh man, like actors, they're these kind of like mysterious people. Like you hear things that like shady things that go on, but it's probably not my favorite actor. But then like you have them all come out and they were singing weird songs in their bathtubs on YouTube or on like Instagram, and then you start to be like, Oh
Imagine
man,
all
yeah.
the people.
So you had stuff like that. They all start coming out, and you realize like a lot of these people who, maybe they are really good at a very, very, very specific thing. They don't know a lot about anything else, and
Yeah.
we talk about writers a lot. You can see from a lot of modern writing that there's people that just don't have any sort of, and I'm not saying like experience as far as like you need to have, because you'll hear this argument sometimes from people where they're like, oh well, old writers had been in like Vietnam and so that's why their stuff's so good. I'm like, if Vietnam is the necessity for good writing, like maybe we're better off without good writing. It's just a bad argument, and so I think there is a level of experience and getting outside of your bubble that is really necessary. And because Hollywood is so, it's in that bubble. And, there's just that's why you get a lot of stereotypes and characters that are like, there's like one specific type of character, and you're seeing it's gotten worse over the years. Because people used to complain about that kind of stuff, like people getting typecasted as certain characters all the time, or like, why is it that like characters from the South are always the specific way? But it's gotten exponentially worse over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
And so going back to this idea of the professional, what I realized is that I wouldn't call it fake it till you make it, but I've been stunned very recently, and I'm being vague on purpose about this, but you can find it in any industry, in any industry that exists. But I've been stunned recently when I'll hear stuff about like certain like television networks, or you look at certain content. I'll throw on like random stuff occasionally just to see how it's like how the quality is, whether it's like Netflix, Hulu, when they do like originals and things like that.
Right.
Dude, I don't remember what it was, but I was watching something, and I say watching, I was kind of like vaguely, it was on in the background while I was doing other stuff. But they were doing some like drone shots, and they did this really jerky, very unprofessional like shot in at the beginning. They're like over LA or something, and they're trying to do an establishing shot of LA. And then you can tell these things because like I fly drones all the time, so like I know when that stuff happens. I was like, oh, that was not smooth.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, this is at least to some degree a large budget thing that has been released on Hulu. Why would you allow that? Like, why would an editor see that and be like, oh, I'm going to leave that in?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
It easily happens when you leave a Starbucks cup in a
dude,
famous last season of a television show.
And listen, I understand those things happen. All right, when you're on a set, when there's a lot going on, a car is going to end up in a medieval fantasy on accident in the background.
Right.
And we do live in an age where you can digitally remove a lot of that stuff. It is possible to like fix afterwards, and you don't ever really want to do that, but you can do it. But yeah, when it's like, I think the point being, it's gotten to this point where, it used to be where I was like, man, I don't know if I could ever reach the level of some of these people who are out there like making these movies or these documentaries or whatever. But then when you realize like there's a lot more buffoonery that goes on with that stuff,
yep.
It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. They're just people. Like, there's nothing, like, it's that idea of, like, Hollywood magic or whatever. Yeah, there's nothing magical about it. A lot of what it comes down to is just the confidence to kind of, like, put specific things out there. Now, of course, like, we talk about all the time, you do need good writing. You need to have a good, like, a good quality camera. Like, there should be standards for these things. The problem is that, the standard for a while was like, oh, well, it looks really good, but it's like, yeah, but the script sucks. Like, the story is terrible. It's boring. And so there's certain standards.
The entire movie is CGI.
Yeah, there's certain standards that are there. And it's really funny because in my research trying to figure out what camera I was going to upgrade to, there's a couple YouTubers that I highly respect for their specific opinions about gear, if you will. Like, yes, this stuff is really good. Here is my very detailed analysis. No, well, we use the same mic. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that. We were RE320.
Yeah, we were using it before he was. But I honestly, props to him for not going for the Shure SMB 500 or whatever it is that every YouTuber uses. It's a good mic, but
it's a status symbol.
It kind of is. It's like, I am an actual like podcaster or YouTuber because I have this mic, and it's like, I mean, it's it's a good mic, but it's not the end all be all.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's something that, in a way, I'm really happy about. It sucks because there's like one actual like Hollywood dude that, as far as like the content that he's still making, it's Edgar Wright. He's like the only one that seemed like, when all of this stuff was going on, he's the only one that seemed to either, on purpose or just because he actually is like a decent dude, that none of the stuff that was going on, he stayed out of pretty much all of it. I'm sure he had some stupid things that he said on Twitter or whatever, but who hasn't? But it was, everybody, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's like one director after the other, one actor after the other. There's very few people left in the industry that I'm like, I can still, and when I say look up to, it's solely based on the work that they've done, not like who they actually are as people.
Right.
You have like Roger Deakins is a great director of photography. He did like 1917.
Oh yeah.
Blade Runner 2045. It was anyway.
That's right.
I think that's right. But he's the DP, meaning that he's the guy that's in charge of the cinematography, essentially. So that, some of those people still exist where it's like, I think there are people out there that know, like, I'm not going, no matter how I feel about certain things, like, I'm going to stay away from that. I have a very specific job, a specific thing that I love to do. That's why I'm here. I'm going to get this thing done. And there's a certain amount of respect that I have for that. Even though Edgar Wright's last movie, Last Night in Soho, I don't know if you've seen it. It's not that good.
No. After you told me your review about it, I was like, I'll save my time.
Yeah, it's something I kind of want to watch again.
I will say this. I will have to say, I watched Avatar 3 recently, the past, 2 weeks.
Way of Water?
Yeah, Way of Water. And it actually was about what I expected.
Okay.
I was just trying to pause for dramatic effect.
It worked because I wasn't sure where you were going with that. I was like, "Oh, is he gonna say he liked it?"
It was actually a bit better than I was expecting, but
okay.
You could definitely cut out an hour of that movie, and it would have been a lot better. It was just, there was too much just pride in it. Like, oh, look at me, I'm James Cameron, I made Avatar. This is the third one or the second one?
Second one.
Okay, well,
believe it or not,
it feels like the third one.
Yeah.
Kayla just came in here and said, "Stop hating on Avatar 2," because she really liked it.
I'm sure it was very pretty to look at.
Hey, I will say this: the CGI on that, immaculate. I don't know why he can get it right and Marvel can't, but
bruh,
it was beautiful to look at. I definitely understand.
He's putting that money behind it, man.
He just dragged out scenes too long because you could tell it was one of those kind of Zack Snyder things of how Zack Snyder really likes slow mo. It's like, ooh, I'm an auteur. Yeah,
hey,
James Cameron has a bit of that.
Slow mo.
And you fault the man?
Slow mo is a tool. It just gets used improperly a lot. Slow mo has a purpose. It really does. And it gets. Zack Snyder he overindulges in it. I haven't seen Way of Water, but I'll take your word for it. That it's like, it has a tendency to get overused at the wrong moments, right? Like
I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't tell someone to go watch. Yeah, like go spend 3 hours and watch this movie. I'd be like, if you want to, go ahead. Dude. I'm not gonna, because it's like, would I have wanted to watch that for 3 hours personally? No.
Yeah,
I could have lived without it. but it's not a bad movie.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And I could definitely understand people not telling James Cameron no, because when you make billions of dollars, how can you tell the man no? But you cut out an hour of that movie and then you get a new villain in it, then it's a lot better movie. I don't like the fact that they use the same villain from the last movie, because it's like, dude, he's not like Darth Vader or Sauron or something. Not like that level type of villain to where you can carry him for 3 movies, so to say. And it basically, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. He's gonna come back in the third one too. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm definitely not seeing the third one unless it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and hello, B McBee from Ireland. Hope I said that.
Hey,
right. Welcome. Yeah, man, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
I've been in the.
I would go your way to watch it.
The reason, part of the reason we have not finished the series on Hillsong is because like I just can't bring myself right now to be in that mindset to watch it.
Yeah.
Every time I go to like watch it, I'm gonna go watch something else. Like
it's hard. I thought about
tough,
watching it too.
Yeah, we are gonna get back to
the Hillsong doc, but it's like it's hard to because it's so heavy.
Yeah, we are gonna get back to it. I just it's very heavy, and I can only.
And there's a lot that
goes
into. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
I did this weekend watch Sisu, which I don't. Maybe nobody knows what I'm talking about when I say that. But it's an action movie, a Finnish action movie. Very little dialogue. It's basically about a Finnish soldier at the end of World War II fighting Nazis, and it's pretty good.
It's good.
I don't know if I liked it better than Extraction. I think Extraction still works a little bit better.
What about All Quiet on the Western Front?
No, it's just totally different, man. Like this is like a pulpy action movie, and All Quiet on the Western Front is like a
somber war movie.
A thought piece on the evils of war, basically. Like they are very different movies. Different era too.
It's like trying to compare. Are you saying it's like comparing Inglourious Bastards versus like Schindler's List?
Seafood. Yes, exactly. That is actually a pretty close comparison, I think. You have one that is a very, very serious drama. It's not really lighthearted, and you have another one where a guy throws a landmine at a Nazi and he explodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that different thing. I do recommend it. It's got a little bit of that like girl power. It's got the slow-mo walk with a bunch of women, and they don't have like it doesn't really ruin it. It's just kind of one of those things where you're like, well, here everybody's doing this now. It's like a check. It's like a check. Yeah, they got to check the box. You know what I mean? And it's kind of sucks because it feels like a part of the story that they could have done a little bit more with, and actually made you care about because they don't really do a whole lot with the women in the movie. They're prisoners. Terrible things have happened to them. They're justified in the actions that they make at the end of the movie. And it's very like weird because they just don't have a lot of character beyond that. Like you really get a sense of who the protagonist is, but the side characters there's not a whole lot going on there.
Not a lot of depth.
It's hard. Yeah, it's even trying to be generous about it. There's not a lot going on there.
Not like Boromir, the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but it's cool, man. I mean, like. There's not a lot of dialogue. The main character doesn't really say anything until the very end of the movie. And I think for the most part, I'm kind of it comes back to being happy the movie exists. Like it's not the best action movie I've ever seen. I'm not going to dote over it. But yeah, it's a good time. The pacing is pretty dang good. I think there are a couple moments that they could have just really made the pacing a little better. I get what they were trying to do with the sort of like the last act, but there are a few like really absurd things where it's like you're starting to hit that nerve of like, this is starting to get out of the realm of me being able to believe that this could happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because they're trying to, like, the way that they're like setting him up is that he's kind of this like legendary commander, to the point of where people believe that he's immortal. But they start to cross into that line because they're like, oh, he's not really immortal. But then they start crossing into that line of like, well, he probably wouldn't have survived this very specific thing that happens at the end of the movie. It's like, dude, it's on, for me, it's like kind of on that level of John Wick jumping out of a 3-story building, hitting his face, like face planting onto a van, getting up, dusting himself off, and walking away. But like, if you
Chris Hemsworth like hiding behind the ladder.
No, of the three, Chris Hemsworth hiding behind a CG ladder that should have just been a door is like third on this list. And then you have John Wick jumping out of a 3rd-story building, and then you have what happens to the main character in Sisu in the last act. Like, this one's like, oh boy. But if you're willing to kind of just like set that aside and be like, all right, it's very enjoyable. It's a very enjoyable movie. It's quite a bit of fun. Oh, thoughts on Indy 5?
When does that come out?
It comes out in 4 days. I have no intention. I have no intention of seeing it. I grew up on those first 3 movies, and it hurts me a little bit what has happened to him since his return in 2008. You know, he comes back. Everyone complains about that movie and is like, this is not what we wanted. I mean, it was so notorious at the time that South Park did an episode on it. And so they're like, well, what if we bring it back and just make it even worse? You know? And now
got a bomb at the box office.
Yeah, and now it seems even more intentionally cruel what they're doing than what happened back in 2008 with Crystal Skull. Never watched Crystal Skull, to be honest. You're not missing a whole lot. This is just another incident, man, of there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies.
And I don't like any of them.
There's only 2 Terminator movies. There's only, well, depending on who you ask, only 2 Predator movies.
Yeah.
It's just fallen into that camp with everything that once was held in high regard being sucked dry for this, you know, for some reason.
Squeezing that money out.
Okay, I 100% recommend people go watch Drinker's most recent video about why this movie's going to fail in the box office. I think it's a very like tight, this is the reason why. And you might not expect what it is, but I'll say this: $300 million movie.
I know, dude.
What were they thinking? Who signed off on that?
You know, honestly, what it is these execs, all they see is Indiana Jones movie.
Did he say that? Do you not like the Indiana Jones movies?
Yeah.
What? Well, everybody, this has been episode 140 of The Underground. I'll be back next week with Justin.
Oh,
bro,
man.
That is yikes.
Now, I haven't watched them since I probably was a kid, like middle school, and I just remember being like, oh, I just don't like that.
I'm going to make some enemies in the troll room.
Jenna called me out. I'm like, that one flew by David real fast.
It did. I didn't even hear you say it. Listen, that's why the troll room is here, to help keep up with all of this stuff.
All the comments we get going forward on YouTube. I hate Joseph.
Jake knows I hate the Expendables movies. Though at this point, I'm sure those look like masterpieces compared to a lot of stuff that we've gotten. I'll say this, because I meant to bring this up with Jake, and I think I meant to bring this up last week. And then we are going to get into the stories, like our new stuff. Extraction is what I wanted the Expendables to be.
Yes.
If I don't think I was able to articulate this back when those first 2 movies came out, and I don't think I ever even saw the third one. Maybe I did. Extraction is what I wanted it to be. They have these movies called The Expendables, and like hardly any of the main characters die in it.
I know.
Why did you call it that?
Died.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point though. It would have made it a lot better. People just can't kill characters any longer. You know, it's like we gotta keep them around.
It's so disappointing. Anime does it all the time, and it's kind of wonderful. Like they'll leave you for a really long time building up a lot of these characters, some of which you really like, and then just in a heartbeat, dead. Oh, everyone's dying now. Is that what's happening? But yeah.
Apparently, Indiana Jones needs to make $750 million just to break even.
Bro,
apparently,
according
to Screen Rant and according to what is this comic book something?
Is it CBR?
CBR. Yep. The general rule of thumb is 2.5 times their budgets to break even.
Yeah, that's it really has. And honestly, man, it might be more than that.
Yeah, maybe. That's why movies have to make $1 billion for Marvel now for Disney in order to make the money. It's like I think Guardians of the Galaxy, what they do, like last time I checked, it was at 860 million, which isn't bad.
Hey, I mean that's
not bad.
Yeah, I mean it's not Disney's ridiculous standards for that stuff, but yeah, I mean great. They probably made 250 million budget. Probably it made its money back. And Guardians was it was a beloved franchise, and you're probably not going to see that from hardly anything else that's coming out.
It had that name value and character value. And I think James Gunn recently said, literally in the past couple of days, that the problem with a lot of comic book movies is that by the third act, you don't care about the characters.
Yeah.
Like, the writing just doesn't matter as much.
McBee made a good point that you can't kill characters because the actor's image and appearance is worth more than selling tickets, I think. You're probably right in some cases, and this is the thing that sucks, is because it's typically one of two things that you see now. It's either they're not going to kill off characters because everyone's trying to make spin-offs, everyone's trying to make sequels, everybody's trying to turn everything into a universe, or you'll have a character show up in something at the very beginning, and you just know they're going to get killed off because you've either seen the trailers, so like they're there to pick up just like a quick paycheck to give a little more like credibility to the movie, so they can put the actor in the trailers, and then it's like, oh, well, they're not really in the movie, and you can figure that out pretty easily. But yeah, you just don't, I don't know, man, you just don't get the same stuff anymore. And it's crazy because Drinker was saying that Raiders of the Lost Ark, if you kept to like the general rules of how you calculate for how much a movie costs to make, including like its budget or whatever, like the 2.5.
Right.
It was like a $60 million movie.
Ooh.
And it's like 300. You're looking at a sequel that no one wanted this. And if someone said that they wanted this, they're either being paid off or they're lying about it, because there is no way people were looking at this and they're like, this is the Indiana Jones that I wanted. No one was saying that about Crystal Skull 10 years ago. Or it's been longer than that, actually. But
I think the issue is that you get these executives that just see Marvel movie, or Indiana Jones movie, and they sign off on it, but they're not really involved in the details or anything else. So,
dude, Jenna is going hard on you.
That was pre-2023, Jenna. But don't ever say that I drank Bud Light. I literally I probably have drank Bud Light literally 2 times in my life.
It's really funny.
The last time was probably like in 2019.
So Bud Light, to me, it's one of those things that it's like, it's so terrible now because of the stuff that's going on. And I was like thinking about it today, because there was I'll relate this to a movie that came out recently.
Oh, it was terrible before that.
Exactly. And I'm like, I know it did really, really well. People just drank that stuff. And I don't know if it was just a cultural thing in America that's like,
marketing,
you get a Bud Light, like you go somewhere, it's like it's a cheap beer that you can get, whatever. But it was really funny because it's like, it always sucked. You know, so it's like when all of that stuff started happening, I was like, cool. I wasn't ever drinking that to begin with.
Yeah.
But what's really funny is that movie that came out recently, Elemental, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Justin sent me a news article from some conservative Inc. thing, I'm pretty sure. It was either Fox News or something
or
like that.
Or Daily Wire.
Yeah, it was one of those things. And they were like, new Pixar movie with non-binary character bombs at the box office. And I was like, I found that funny because I didn't know that there was a non-binary character.
I didn't either.
In the movie. And so I told him, I was like, the movie didn't, and what they're trying to imply, right? Because I'm going to call out Bounding into Comics for this too. They're trying to imply, that it bombed because of that character being in the movie. That's not the case. It bombed because, for one, their marketing was probably terrible, and the movie looked like garbage. I didn't know that was a Pixar movie. Like, the animation looked bad. And I was like, who wants to go see a movie about water and fire? Like, there's nothing.
And I also think it's because of, Disney's part of it. People know that Disney owns Pixar. I think that's a part of it. But yeah,
I
saw a lot of marketing for it. Dude.
I saw the trailer in a bunch of movies that I've seen recently, and I guess I just wasn't paying enough attention because I was immediately just like, this movie looks like trash. So I just like,
I saw it. And I just like, I thought I saw this when what was that movie about that Pixar did about the emotions, and it was like had like sad and envy recently. Pixar. Oh man, what's the name of it? I should have put Pixar emo movie.
Not to mention, man, I need to make sure everyone is aware of this. Water and fire don't have genders to begin with, so like I don't understand why it's. Like, don't get me wrong, I get it. It's like, oh, they're trying to give them human characteristics, but like, come on, guys.
Yeah. It reminded me of Inside Out, that movie by Pixar, and I'm like, I've already seen this.
Yeah, and
I feel like it was just rebranded with,
it was all right.
The elements.
Emoji movie.
But yeah, that's funny. I thought the same thing when I saw that title, by the way.
Yeah, Justin,
when they're like binary character, I was like, binary character? Like, what does that matter? It's freaking fire and water.
I was just like, oh, yeah, that. I messaged him back, and it's like, yeah, that's the reason why. Like, it's like, come on, guys. Again, we've talked about this in the past, but a lot of the reason that like conservatives like still aren't being able to hit the cultural market the way that they've always wanted to is because they do stupid stuff like that all the time, and they can't seem to get away, like, as much as they want to, and I think Daily Wire was trying to make this like play to be like quote unquote new Hollywood, Yeah, it wasn't really about like, oh, we want to make movies that go back to like actually having good content and it being about like good characters and and they were trying to ride off of that to again just make garbage, because like if you look at it now, man, it's like what are they doing? Remember when they were making movies like a year ago?
Yeah, whatever happened with that?
Yeah, it's just like I guess it just wasn't the right investment for them, or they tried and like failed at it.
You know who else failed at it? The director of The Flash. Let's have a moment of silence for that movie.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. The Flash. That movie's going to lose at least $150 million. But I bet, dude, should we place a bet to see if Indiana Jones loses more money than The Flash, or do you think that's...
So it would have to miss... So if we say, let's just baseline $750 million to break even, it would have to only make $550 million to lose, right? I mean, like, it's anything. Right. Obviously, like anything
below 600 million.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Man, if that movie makes $550 million, I will be flabbergasted.
Well, it ain't gonna get any money.
Are there any holidays this weekend? Is there anything surrounding the release of that?
It's July 4th weekend. But July 4th is like Tuesday. I say July 4th weekend. July 4th is going to be celebrated.
So, but it's
unless everybody is also celebrating my wedding anniversary this weekend. Is that worldwide?
No, Joseph. I know you think highly of yourself, but let's see. So the 30th is Friday. No, so they're not even releasing it earlier this week. And not everybody. July 4th. Yeah, okay. There's a chance that that people are just going to be like, well, let's go see something in the theater. But what else is out? Is there anything that would stop it?
It may be that name value that carries it, dude. But it may not lose as much as The Flash did, because you know what it doesn't have? Huh. It doesn't have 2 Ezra Millers in it.
Oh, yeah.
And I just had no interest. Also, like, I like Michael Keaton as an actor. Yeah. I don't.
This wasn't the way to bring him back.
I don't care that much for his Batman version.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't the way to bring him back either.
No.
The way. Okay, so Asteroid City. So right now, Asteroid City, Flash, Elemental, Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers.
Forgot about Transformers. You want to review that? You want to go to the movie theater again?
Fast X, Guardians, and The Little Mermaid. So those are all of that stuff. I just went to Regal's website, and that's what they have under Now Playing. So I don't want to say stacked, because I don't have confidence in most of the stuff that's out right now. There's a lot of other options besides Indiana Jones out to potentially go see. So yeah, all right. So we'll see if it even hits 600. I'm not even thinking it's going to get to 550 million, and honestly, that even seems high to me. But to be honest, there's times that stuff has come out, and I've been like, there's no way that's gonna be successful, and then it does pretty well, and I'm like, I'm just not I guess I was not the audience for that movie, but I don't know who the audience for Indiana Jones is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not me. Apparently, Jenna's upset with my Michael Keaton take. He is not the best Batman. I'm sorry. You freaking boomer over here.
I don't know.
Michael Keaton's the best Batman. Freaking, what are you, 57 years old? He is not the best Batman. That's for sure. He's a good Batman. But he's not the best. The best, we all know who that belongs to. He passed away earlier this year. You know what I'm talking about, David?
I'm checking to see if
Come on, David.
Well, if it was last year, and you're talking about if you're talking about Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, was it last year for some reason?
Yeah, November 10th, 2022. Which I would agree with Adam West. Yeah.
And then the second best
Kevin Conroy is cheating. I can't. I like
Christian Bale's version as far as the live action ones better than Michael Keaton's. And Adam West.
I don't know how I feel about any of it anymore. I like.
You prefer Robert Pattinson's now?
No, not at all. There's things about I like about his Batman, in the same way there's things about Christian Bale's performance I like, and even what's his face from the Snyderverse, whose name is slipping my mind. I literally
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
That's right. I'm sorry, Ben Affleck. I forgot about you.
Conroy, you degenerate stooge. Oh boy, is Justin busy. Patterson's Bruce Wayne is the worst by far. But it's when he's in the Batman costume, it's just different. And I think and this is the thing, is like, I think there's things that you can take away from it to be like, there's stuff about that I like. I honestly really do like the brutality of both him and Ben Affleck. There's a lot of people that don't like. We've seen a lot. Well, to be fair, Kevin Conroy's Batman definitely killed people, but honestly, I think all of the Batmen have probably killed people, even though they're like, no, they didn't kill people. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Robert Pattinson's definitely did.
Yeah, and like not Kevin Conroy. Who am I thinking of? The one from The Flash. Shoot, dude.
Oh, Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. He threw people off of buildings. Those.
Yeah, he definitely did.
So it's I guess you're supposed to kind of just. It's that suspension of disbelief, right? Where it's like, well, maybe in certain circumstances that person survived that thing. Yeah. But I
agree with McBee that I enjoy Pattinson's detective side the best. Probably out of all of them, I like to focus on it more.
I appreciate that they tried to do that. Yeah, I just don't think they did a very good job.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
It was like there wasn't. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen it since last year. I do not remember there being a whole lot of actual mystery to it. It was just like he would do things that would reveal things, and so he would move to next part of the plot. And then, like, that happened a lot, Right. I just don't remember it ever being like, oh, man, this is actually, like, a really interesting mystery of what's going on here. And, like, oh, is he going to be able to solve riddles in time? It was just sort of like... And he failed a bunch at it, too. Like, he really wasn't that good at it. So, that's kind of... That would have been nice to see, where it's like, okay, so maybe and maybe it's something that needs to be reworked with Batman, where so it's basically year 2 for him, right? In the new Batman. So okay, so maybe he's always been a very like perceptive person. Maybe he's always been able to solve riddles and
puzzles.
Yeah, so like the detective side is something that he is naturally gifted at, and maybe he's not as good at combat. You get to see him mess up as far as like his ability to use like grappling hooks. Like, so he's making a lot of mistakes in those areas, but the thing that's like his strength is the detective work. Now, I'm just taking this, I'm not talking necessarily comic book accuracy here. This is not the point of the conversation. It's the kind of idea of like, okay, he can't be good at everything in year 2, but maybe there's that one thing that's like, oh man, it's really intriguing that he's so good at solving these mysteries, at figuring out who's doing this stuff. And then when it comes to combat, he's like kind of getting by. Maybe he's not dealing with like Mr. Freeze at this point, right? He's dealing with kind of those like ground level criminals that aren't as strong as someone like Freeze is. Like even with Riddler, like Riddler's just a dude who does riddles. Like he doesn't have superpowers. So some of that would have been really cool to see Robert Pattinson in Batman's escape room. It's kind of fair. He's like stumbling into certain things, there's just stuff that I think that they could do with the character to make him kind of fresh, make it a little bit different. And I get what they were kind of doing with Robert's Batman. Like at least they were kind of trying to pay attention to detail, where it's like, oh man, he's heavily armored, because getting hit actually does suck. But then they're like, well, we're gonna just spray a machine gun at him, and it doesn't do anything to him. Yeah. He hits the side of a bridge, probably going 60 miles an hour through the air. He's not dead. And so it's like you start to lose me.
Gets up and walks away.
When you say like, oh, this is very grounded, but then it's like, but these moments aren't.
I can't remember the first bit. What was Matt saying? He fell with the first evidence that could have solved the whole thing immediately. What was the first piece of evidence? Wasn't it that card?
He finds the part where he finds like the finger in his car, and
the thumb drive.
He gets the riddle wrong, and it that's what sends him off on this like goose chase that you spend like half an hour or more of the movie like on this specific thing, and then he's like, oh, actually it was this other thing the whole time, and if he had known that, it would have gotten him right to where he needed to go.
Lining up the photos.
Yeah, and then like and I guess we're past like the spoiler with that thing, but like the Riddler was right across the street from Penguin's Club the entire time, and it's like there wasn't anything that would have given that away. There was no like indication of any of this. Like the whole thing I think does fall apart the more you look at it. But to be honest, it's so far out of my head at this point that I don't have a lot of good recollection of it. It's just like bits and pieces, Okay, but speaking of the DC universe, I guess we can finally get to the first news article. I mean, we're 50 minutes into this.
Well, we've got to the more part of our title.
Yeah, we did. It was just it was all a little bit reversed. So, and I'm curious what the troll room thinks about this, and of course what you think too, Joseph. But there was some news that came out after it was announced that The Flash was bombing at the box office. That there was talks, I guess, of a Batman Beyond movie potentially getting made if The Flash did well, which means this movie was probably never getting made.
Yeah, right.
But
The Flash had been in production for what, a decade? A long time.
It's been a while for sure. I don't know, man. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this thing's been on a bad trajectory for a while. And I don't know if... I mean, like, did people not see Wonder Woman 84?
Yeah, right.
Of everything, I think that should have been the biggest red flag for people. When that came out, I think, the rose-colored glasses for a lot of those folks came off. But, yeah, anyway, so this is from Inverse. It says the most exciting new Batman movie is definitely dead. It says one of the best depictions of Batman ever doesn't even put Bruce Wayne in the suit. Instead, in Batman Beyond, Wayne takes a backseat to mentor a new Batman, Terry McGinnis. This, I would say, cyberpunk-inspired future goth cartoon was a spinoff of Batman the Animated Series and Justice League, and might be one of the coolest visions of Batman ever. At least it was to every 10-year-old who was watching it in the early 2000s. Batman Beyond's following only grew. Its impact was so powerful that as soon as Ben Affleck debuted as an older Batman in Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, there were rumors he could eventually end up anchoring a live-action Batman Beyond, which I remember when that talk was going on, and I think at the time, people were like, that would be pretty cool to see.
Right.
These rumors of a live-action Batman Beyond became a real possibility when The Flash cast Michael Keaton, reprising his role as Batman from the 1989 and 1992 Tim Burton films. Now it turns out that we almost could have had a Michael Keaton-led Batman Beyond, but there's a catch. According to Kevin Smith, on his Fat Man Beyond podcast, Keaton was due to star in Batman Beyond movie after he reprised the role in The Flash, provided the latter was a box office hit. That's the problem, as we now know. So yeah, that's pretty much the news.
I don't think Michael Keaton would have been it anyway. That's just nostalgia, and I don't think it works for me. He's too old.
Well, he's supposed to be.
I know.
He's supposed to be old. He's supposed to be old Batman training.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that old. It doesn't have to be him though. I'm just not the biggest.
Man, you just don't like Michael Keaton. Just say you don't like Michael Keaton, Joseph.
No, I enjoy the Michael Keaton Batman movies. It's just like, let them stay there. It's more so my thing. Like, he doesn't need to come back.
I think if we lived in a completely different world where DC had been significantly more successful and Michael Keaton reprised his role as Bruce Wayne in a cameo that was a direct indication that Batman Beyond was coming, I think that movie would have done incredibly well.
I would have rather seen Ben Affleck as in the role for Batman Beyond.
Yeah, I get it. I think Keaton would have hit more for a lot of people. Maybe not for you,
a lot of boomers.
There's a lot of people that really love 89 in particular, but those two Batman movies. Keaton is roughly the right age, because like Bruce Wayne he's retired. He's done in Batman Beyond. Like, he's not he doesn't have the suit anymore. And so to be able to potentially introduce something like that could have been, I mean, and again, we're talking very hypothetical at this point because the DC has probably been, especially looking back on it, it's been a mess from the start. And it was like they were trying so hard to put things together and make this universe, and they just stumbled through it the whole time.
Seemed like they were throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what stuck.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
There seems to be a lot of that going on these days. So there's like part of me that's like, man, that's kind of disappointing because it would be cool to finally have gotten like a live action version of that.
And I think,
on the other hand, I wouldn't have trusted it to what DC currently is.
Yeah,
so.
And I think a reason why like there's a lot of people, throwing things at the wall to see what sticks is because a lot of these executives don't understand why fans enjoy, whatever the source material is. They don't understand its true essence. Therefore, they can't really capture that in motion picture, whether that's, in film or television. Whereas before, at least in the past, Hollywood seemed to fake it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if they were lying, it was at least this halfway attempt of trying to understand. Whereas now, like I said before, it's just with Disney, all they see is, oh, Marvel movie, $1 billion, $1 billion, and it's like, well, that's not how it's going to work. We'll see what James Gunn can do, but
man, I
just don't know if I care anymore. That's my thing. Like with Star Wars, is that a Star Wars movie can be announced. I just don't.
Oh, we're gonna get to that because I agree. Especially Star Wars now, it's like they announce stuff, and I'm like, dude, I don't know, let it burn. Sure, keep churning out garbage. You'll have certain people who will continue, like, despite any evidence, any arguments to the contrary, they will continue to tell you that Star Wars is in some kind of renaissance. But the numbers aren't saying that.
No, it's dead. Almost as dead, no, if not deader than The Flash.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this before we move on. And to be honest, it does kind of play into this next thing we're going to talk about. So I said this last week, knowing there's a lot of controversy, or I say controversy, there's a lot of conversation going on right now about the term superhero fatigue. And I just, it's an easy term. Well, and people know what you kind of mean when you say that. It's like, in our current state, a lot of the superhero stuff people are tired of. But then people will argue, well, it's not because it's superheroes, it's because of the writing. And you're like, yeah, but it's all coming from superhero movies. Yeah. So the question I have for you, and Troll Room, feel free to give your opinions as well.
Except Jenna.
Is it superhero fatigue, or is it one or the other, or is it a mix of both? Which I feel like saying, is it a mix of both is a cop-out, because that's probably the right answer. But if you were to kind of like weigh it in one camp or the other, what do you think? Do you think it's more of like because the quality has really gone down, or do you think that people are just kind of getting tired of superheroes?
That's a good question. I lean towards the bad writing. I say that to say maybe if the writing had been better after Endgame, or like as in by writing being better, they actually had a plan. Because when we talk about superhero movies, we're mainly talking about Marvel. That's the main thing. Like, let's just get it straight. Yes, we're talking about DC too, but come on, DC can barely make a B movie right now. Which as a whole could barely make a B movie, because the first Wonder Woman movie, I said for the longest time, that movie is not as great as people are saying. It's not bad. Like, if I was to grade it, I'd say B plus. But it wasn't like, oh, this is so amazing and great.
Yeah, there's things that I like about it. I really like Chris Pine in that, and
I like Gal Gadot in it.
Yeah,
Five facial expressions.
She's not a very good actress. She's just she's just pretty.
That's why I said her 5 facial expressions.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot when you really start breaking that apart. There's a lot that kind of goes wrong with that movie, and the third act is just, again, it's one of the problems that a lot of the superhero movies had, where it just becomes this big CG explosion fest, and it's like, okay.
But I think they get it right in the Troll Room. It's quality as a whole. It's the writing, the CGI, the overall direction, the editing, the pacing, the lengths, and I really think it would have been better had they just ended everything at Thanos, or they would have been like, okay, now we're going to do Galactus as the big bad.
They probably should. But
maybe we're not going to make it. Yeah, we're not going to make it as long as we did with Thanos. We're just going to, that whole deal.
I kind
Just
of
something different, or maybe rebooted with the X-Men and like start doing singular, universe or singular stories again, like insulated from the overall universal through lines and themes.
Yeah.
I think the writing's the main point, like it becoming too politically driven and agenda driven.
Yeah. There's definitely issues with the writing. There's a lot of issues, and I guess to a degree it comes back to writing, but there's a lot of issues with pacing, the way that the movies are designed, and it's a it's a problem because in a way it's not fully, but it's a pop culture-ish problem that superheroes are predominantly dominating in. Like superhero movies are the reason why everyone was trying to make a universe, the reason that everything is written the way that it is, the reason that you don't get impactful deaths the way that you typically would in a trilogy or just in a single like one-off movie.
Yeah, they can't even. There's no stakes hardly to anything because no one's really at risk. You can't hardly kill anyone in a superhero
Contracts.
movie. So yeah, there's just so many things at play. Even during the first 3 phases, that was something that kind of wore on me, is there weren't any kind of significant deaths to where
stakes were weird. Yeah. They got rid of like Quicksilver and he's introduced kind of, well, basically he's in one movie and he's gone by the end of it, and it was like, oh, okay, I guess we're just, well, that was weird. Like, what?
Yeah. So I think, but when you look at Spider-Man or you look at Batman, like these more of these heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Even Guardians of the Galaxy, because of their legacy of the first couple movies and how much people love them.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the main players, they hit, and then beneath that, they don't hit.
Yeah.
Because I think people are just like, like, why bother? I think that's going to be a problem for Disney or for DC with these like random movies they're making. It's like, dude, start out with your heavy hitters first, and then maybe you can get to the Guardians level kind of characters. And I wouldn't even say they're that level because these people seem bottoms of the barrel, what the Commando or whatnot.
Oh, I guess Kraven's going to be rated R.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised with this trailer, the blood that it showed.
Yeah, it's a red band. I didn't even realize there was a red band trailer out. The only one I saw was like, your typical like,
What does that mean, red band trailer?
It means that they put stuff in it that typically they don't put in trailers. So you know how like when you watch you go to see a movie sometimes, and the sort of like preview thing that comes up, it's typically green. When it's red, it pretty much always means it's for a rated R movie, and that there's probably going to be more content that you wouldn't see in like a more like family friendly edit of a trailer, even if it's a rated R movie.
Yeah. Okay, that explains it. I'm like, oh, they're making trailers like this now.
Yeah, man. I don't know.
This trailer was bad.
So yeah, here's the thing. Like, why? Morbius did not do well. It's not good. I couldn't even finish it, man. I think I got halfway through it.
To watch it.
Yeah, I got halfway through it, fell asleep, and was like, "Oh, I'll just get back to it eventually," and I never went back.
That was so great how people convinced Sony to re-release
it. I know. The memes were the best part about that, and speaking of Quicksilver, by the way.
Oh, right.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was also the main character in Kick-Ass, back when occasionally they were doing something different with superhero movies, is going to play Kraven the Hunter, who's a Spider-Man villain, most notably.
Yay! All 5 people,
and it's like
are happy.
Yeah, it's like Russell Crowe.
I like Russell Crowe, but I'm just like, eh. I thought the only thing I liked about this movie outside of seeing Russell Crowe
biting that dude's nose
was so the only thing I liked about this movie outside of Russell Crowe was at the end seeing Rhino. But I'm like, I just still don't even really care.
Yeah,
it's like, why are we making this movie? Just like this, they should be introduced in Spider. I don't know. It's like, is Kraven really worthy of his own movie?
Morbin time. It reminds me of when Universal was trying to do like a dark universe thing with all of the Universal monsters.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is like Sony, they still have Spider-Man. Just make another Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, with Kraven in it.
Or yeah, and then like it's so that's why I bring up a lot of or that question is because like as much as I agree that I think it is heavily weighted in the side of the quality of the types of superhero movies that we're getting is really starting to go downhill. There's just a lot of it that's like, and I guess that not everybody knows who some of these characters are, so maybe they see these trailers and they're like, oh, okay. And maybe people just are assuming that stuff is superhero related now or like comic book related because that's practically everything that's coming out.
Right.
But at least for me, there's part of me that's like, I find out that it's comic book related and I'm immediately like, nah, I'm good. And I know a lot of that is quality related, but you can't deny the fact that a majority of the time it's very specifically comic book related because if anything else comes out, whether it turns out to be bad or not, I'm already like a little more interested.
Yep. Yeah, kind of just like with it being a superhero movie, I'm like, really, if it's not Batman, I don't really care. Anymore.
Yeah. Like
just because I enjoy the character of Batman and his universe. Outside of that, I don't really care for Superman. Don't really care for Wonder Woman. Don't really care for Flash. I do like Green Lantern. He'd probably be second favorite for DC outside of some of their villains. And then Marvel. I've just never really been a big fan of Marvel to begin with.
They could take some of these massive budgets, split it in half, maybe even into thirds, do some just like more budgeted friendly, like character focused comic book movies, like
the Joker was.
Yeah, and they might still be able to make a killing, but like nobody's gonna go see a Kraven the Hunter movie.
We don't talk about Ryan Reynolds playing Green Lantern. That's not the Green Lantern. I'm not a big fan of
was that Hal Jordan?
Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. I don't dislike it. It's just like I'm more so of
yeah. Poor Ryan Reynolds, But Ryan Reynolds is a great example of this though, because I think we've brought this up a number of times. But the Deadpool movie was essentially made on a shoestring budget, and it made $1 billion. It was the first R-rated movie to ever hit $1 billion, and
what was the budget for that movie?
We've talked about it before, dude.
It was less than 100
million. I think
million.
it was 60 or 80 million.
Yeah, that was about the same price as the Joker. The Joker was like 50.
I should know this because I've looked this up a number of times this year.
But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of deal. Shoestring budget, people that are passionate, that care, and boom, there you go. I mean, you look at
58 million.
Todd Phillips, 58 million.
58 million.
Look up the Jokers. And it made $1 billion, you said? Over $1 billion?
I believe it made $1 billion.
Yeah.
And then Joker.
That's all you really need.
Joker's 55 million, so they're right in that ballpark together.
Yep.
And Joker also made over $1 billion. Joker killed it. So, yeah, I mean, the right characters, the right director, a good script, something that's going to be... dude, and because I don't really like this argument anymore, I think, unfortunately, a lot of the internet people have ruined this, but like people would be like, they started doing this thing where it's like, well, this is comic book accurate. It's just we're at the point now where it's like it being comic book accurate does not in and of itself make it good,
Well, they hardly even follow the comic books anymore anyway, so it's not like that. That's great.
And it's one of those things. It's like if they put out a movie and like we're making this really comic book accurate, and it truly was, and it was still bad, be like, well, then clearly this was bad to begin with,
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Last news story. This one I just pulled directly from Bounding Into Comics because I didn't feel like trying to find another outlet. Upcoming Star Wars film focused on Rey. We'll see her train a female apprentice destined to emerge as the future leader. Shocked. How original, Joseph.
I know.
How interesting and exciting, and I'm ready to pre-order my ticket now.
Dying to see that movie.
A new plot synopsis has reportedly been revealed, so this is still technically a rumor, about the upcoming Star Wars film starring Daisy Ridley. And again, why are we doing this? Jake was lurking, and he came back specifically to say, no. Daisy Ridley was recently announced at the Star Wars celebration in April that she's coming back. In a press release, dang man, I wonder how much money they paid her to come back.
That had to be a lot of money.
I don't know. She hasn't been doing like a ton since the end of Star Wars. But still. Because
she hasn't been in anything else, has she?
She was in the Poirot movie, not Death on the Nile, the Murder on the Orient Express. She was in that.
She was?
Yeah. She's she plays like the heiress in that.
That's right.
Daisy Ridley. I know I've seen her in a couple other things since then. I kind of feel bad for her because she was she had such like a bubbly, excited like thing going on when that series was kind of like first getting announced, and she's like, I'm gonna be in Star Wars, and it, like by the end, her and the rest of the cast are like, I don't know if we're coming.
No.
Yeah. There are interviews where they're asked about Rise of Skywalker, and the whole cast is just like, yeah, it's a movie. She's been
too great.
She's done some voice acting. Yeah, she's been in some stuff, but not a lot. Nothing to write home about. You know what I mean? Oh,
a lot of like high popular films.
So let's see. After Star Wars, I'm just gonna name some. So she was in a video game called The Dawn of Art. Never heard of that. She was in a short called Baba Yaga, another short called Asteroid Hunters, Chaos Walking, a video game called 12 Minutes. Oh, I actually know what 12 Minutes is. She did a podcast series, which I assume she did voice acting for. She was in a Netflix movie called The Bubble. She was in a movie called Sometimes I Think About Dying. She played someone named Fran in that. And then a movie called The Inventor. It looks animated. Yeah, animated. So nothing on the level of Star Wars. I don't know, man. Maybe they got maybe she was like, please bring me back.
Yeah. She needed some good old money. I don't blame her.
Dude, John Boyega, like,
the paycheck.
Yeah. He's like, not in a million years.
No, I don't blame him. After what they did to him in China.
Yeah. There's like, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like Star Wars is a dead franchise. It's who really cares anymore?
They ran it into the ground, man.
And who wants to see, obviously, no offense to Miss Daisy. Is that her name? Ridley? What's her name? The lady that plays Rey? You just said it.
Daisy Ridley?
Yeah, Daisy Ridley. Yeah, no offense to her, but no one really cares that much about Rey to see her come back. I mean,
yeah,
it's not a Luke situation.
Hey everyone, we're bringing Rey back, and the reaction is like somewhere between like why and
are you gonna kill her
off? God, no, dude. Honestly, this is how this is where I'm at now. Like, Last Jedi came out, very much made me look at not only Star Wars but a lot of other things differently. Made me dig into it a little bit more. Rise of Skywalker was a comedy. You know, you can ask Justin. Maybe he won't remember, but we went to go see Rise of Skywalker because I was like, you know what? It's like, it's the last one. Let's just go. Let's see what they do, and we're done, right? That's the end. You know, I was pretty much done with Star Wars at that point, but I was like, you know what? Let's go. People were like clapping at the end, and I literally out loud in the theater went, "Stop clapping! Like, don't stop clapping! Like, this does not deserve any sort of praise whatsoever." But at this point, I've gone from just being like, I'm done with it, whatever, to be like, you know what? Yes, keep making as much garbage content as you possibly can. Just like run the franchise. I don't even care anymore. Like it's like watching the city burn. It's like, great. This is
it's like watching the Titanic sink.
Yeah. It's just a dumpster fire at this point. You know, and people will try to defend it. People that we know and have had good relationships in the past, they're like still standing for Star Wars. And it's like, what do you still see in it? What is it going to take for you to be like, hold up? You know?
Yeah.
It's just like they're coping with their blinders on. They cannot.
Got them rose-colored glasses on.
Yeah. It's like, no. Like, it's still good. They're just blocking out anything for anyone that would say something that isn't good about it. And it's like, all right, man. I mean, sure. Enjoy.
Yeah,
you know?
Tell me what you liked about it, then let's talk about it.
Sure.
You know, I think a lot of people just don't get pressed on when they like something. Oh, what'd you like about that? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they have to ask questions and then it gets justified, which is fine. If you just want to, I understand just wanting to watch something and not think about anything.
Yeah.
I've done that many times myself. I'm like, I'm just turning off my brain.
I can't, you know?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there's plenty
she has
of
no struggle.
Yeah. There's part.
Nothing to her character. She is just.
Dude, did you post that meme in the Discord that was like, they were like, don't tell me she doesn't do, and it's like, you're just leaving out all of the ways that she overcame those things immediately. And one of the worst offenders of that.
It was how many times does a female lead need to have her mind violated, be captured, die, be knocked out, be tested, or be bested, have life force sucked out of her, be tortured to not be considered a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
It's like, but did it lead to any character change?
No. She was just getting constantly getting better, constantly overcoming. You know, and they're like
being told how amazing she is.
It's like, yeah, but she died. And they're like, yeah. And then Kylo Ren somehow brings her back to life, sacrifices himself because of how much he deeply cares about this girl. And so she comes back to life. She's got basically every conceivable force power, and she's better at any of it than any other Jedi that has ever existed. And it's just like, I know, like, Jake's probably still in the troll room, and I know he loves Star Wars to death, but it's like the world building in that has written itself into a corner because all of these incredibly overpowered abilities exist, and there's no downside to her using certain abilities, and it's honestly, as Star Wars, and I know there's probably people who are going to tell me that I'm completely wrong about this, and yeah, this is very much coming from I've watched the movies, I read a couple books when I was a kid, and it doesn't even matter because none of that stuff is canon anymore, or a majority of it isn't. But they've written themselves into this corner. It's like, oh, yeah. So one Force user can now just bring another Force user back to life. Now, to be fair, at least they did the decency of it being like, well, you're gonna die if you try to do this, you know?
Yeah, because it's the freaking Force. Just don't get me started about that.
It's just it got too much into the magic.
Rather hungry,
rather than being like,
be filled with the Force.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm sorry.
Yeah. And there's, to be fair, some of the video games are probably to blame for some of that too, because they made that stuff way more than it originally was meant to be, you know? It was supposed to sort of be this somewhat of an unknown. And you can blame George Lucas a little bit for it too, because he decided to make it something that could literally be counted rather than it being like, oh, there's something mysterious about Force users. They were, in a lot of ways, they were originally samurai. It's like the old I think it was old Kurosawa movies is where George Lucas got the idea for that type of character. It's like they're samurai, and it's like, oh, but there's also something a little bit mysterious to them. Like, we're gonna give them a little bit of that, that like magical ability, but it wasn't something that was like the end all be all, right? Now it's like, okay, you're just basically perfect. It's not interesting at that point. And it's a problem that like a lot of it has had, and I know Jake would appreciate this because we've talked about this in the past with like certain animes. But when stakes start to get to that world-ending level, and this happens a lot in Marvel movies too, we've lost the ability to make movies with like lower stakes that are potentially a little bit more character-based. Now, you can do it with large stake stuff too. But once you start to get to this place where it's like, well, the main villain can basically obliterate the Earth, and no one has been good enough to at where they currently are is good enough to be able to take that character on. So now we have to like basically like make our hero as powerful as this like world-ending thing. But then if you ever try to make anything after that, you've already got these stakes that are way too high. So it's like once you've gotten to the place where the planet can basically be destroyed by a character, it's hard to go back to like smaller stakes in stories. And unfortunately, a lot of anime falls into that by the time they get to the end because they keep having to like up the stakes. It ruins a good bit of it. Though there's a few of them that I still like because there's a lot of really good character. And that's the thing is like some absurdity can be sort of like you just kind of, you're like, yeah, that stuff's kind of ridiculous, but like I still like a lot of this other stuff, so I'm going to keep watching this. It doesn't necessarily, it's not like the end all be all for something that I'll quit watching, but it's a problem that stuff has. And I mean, honestly, if Star Wars had good characters, and good writing, like everything we always talk about, we probably wouldn't be talking about how awful it is that they're making another one, but it's like, here we are because great, we're going to do another story about a character who isn't actually a Skywalker training another person to be like the leader of the galaxy. Like that's what we're still in this like tiny bubble of Star Wars, right?
Right.
It could have been, it's supposed to be a galaxy, right? And everything that they keep doing is always surrounded around the exact same characters all the time. It's like, even like take something like Rogue One. Like even Rogue One, they could not help themselves but put Darth Vader in it. Yeah. They couldn't help themselves. They had to put Darth Vader in it. I'm
surprised Andor didn't, or did it?
Andor was. I mean, no matter how people feel about Andor, I mean, like they showed restraint with a lot of what they did.
Right.
It's the thing it's really funny too, and it's got problems, for sure. And I never finished it. But there's those first like 3 episodes that I watched. There's a lot of issues that I had with it. Mostly it was like them doing those like flashbacks to when he was a kid, and I was like, because it's that like the natives are having their land destroyed trope, and it's like, okay, it just I wasn't into that. There's stuff I did like about those episodes, and I can give them credit for sure for restraining themselves when it came to a lot of the typical Star Wars stuff. And as far as I'm aware, there's not a single lightsaber in it, or any of the other like typical things. They
But it's just like, who cares? It's Star Wars.
And that's part of the problem is that the type of thing that could have moved Star Wars into new territory is the thing that they took way too long to release. And the thing that's like, why do we care about this series about a dude that is in a one-off Star Wars movie? Like, Why, who was like, "Yay, Andor" when it came out? And we talked about it. We talked about it when that came out, but like the show wasn't doing very well, so they were going to put like the first episode out on regular television to try to like drum up interest. The problem is that the way that show's designed, you really need to watch the first 3 episodes to potentially even hook anybody. And it's because of the way that it's paced. It's very slow. It's not for everybody. And so it, you know, it's one of those things. It's like the guy that got to do it was basically like, I'm not a fan of Star Wars. You know, it's like, I'm going to make what I want to make in the Star Wars universe, which is something that way back I was always kind of hoping that they would do. Where it's like, oh, we're going to get a lot of kind of different interesting stories within this galaxy that aren't specifically related to any of the numbered trilogy type, any of those movies. And, you know, the closest that we ever got and probably ever will get at this point, I think, is Andor. And it's unfortunate that that's it. And that there's no more ideas and we're just going back to the same dried up well of, hey, you know how you...
Did you see what Zach said?
Busted. I'm the guy who enjoyed Andor.
That's okay, dude. I understand. I've heard it's good. It's just like...
There's been a part... I know. It's not because I didn't like some of the things that I saw in Andor. I'm just kind of... I was over it at that point. It was like...
It's hard to get invested in anything Star Wars related.
Yeah. No, especially knowing that investment's not going to lead anywhere with anything else because they make a season 2 of Andor and that's it. And then we're back. Like I said, we're back to the well of let's make a Jedi who's training another Jedi that's going to be a leader of something. You know, so there is help for everyone. Oh, I love the troll room.
What we don't pay them to do, troll.
Exactly, man. Y'all are great. We really do appreciate all of you.
Truly do.
I don't have anything else.
And 2 weeks in a row now. I don't have anything else. 2 weeks in a row now for us. We're getting back on your regular scheduled broadcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you love me.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. So y'all enjoy your week.
Yeah, enjoy your week. We'll be back next week.
Oh, that's right. We're going to be talking about The Witcher next week.
Oh, yeah, I guess we're finally... I was wondering when that was coming up.
And we're going to do a live stream, and then David's going to make a YouTube video on it so I can make shorts on it.
Well, editing has slowed down a little bit, so I'm thinking maybe I'll be able to actually get some stuff out besides just the live streams.
Nice.
Jenna's like, I was surprised to see you guys this week, not going to lie. Yeah, it's just kind of the way that it's been, but we appreciate you. We appreciate you guys for still showing up. Oh, dear God.
Hey, Jenna, if you need a job, the offer's still on the table.
Jenna got a job. Did you not see that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
McDonald's?
Not more Witcher. Dude, I know. Was it Blood Origin? It's like, this is it. This is, as far as I'm aware, like, we will do this season of The Witcher, and any content past that will be a passing, like, oh yeah, the new Chris Hemsworth stuff is out. Liam Hemsworth, right? Is that who's taking over? His brother?
Yeah, Liam. The lesser.
Yeah. It'll be like, I poked in for a second. It's not worth it. That's it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Congrats, Jenna. Glad you found the job. For real.
Man.
Hey, and there ain't nothing wrong about
when does Witcher come out? Friday?
Thursday, the 29th.
29th. All right.
I know, because that's the day we have PSSR for work, and everybody thinks it's Wednesday. That means everything is going to be done before Wednesday, meaning tomorrow. So I have a nice cushion day there to get stuff in.
And it's going to be... Well, I'm glad that I signed back up for Netflix then because I only did it because I wanted to watch the Black Clover movie, which is very good if you haven't seen it. I know I said all of these things about how ridiculous world-ending stuff can be, but I still really enjoyed that movie. Mara Leone is my favorite. Yeah, so I guess well that worked out anyway to watch that.
Nice. Well,
and it's
we'll
only
be watching The
4?
Witcher.
It's only 4 episodes, right? Half a season.
Part 1 is going to release Thursday, and then part 2 will release at the end of July.
Okay.
Because they know this is the last season.
Yeah. They're trying to milk it. They're trying to milk it.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all I have.
Yeah, same. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 140 of The Underground. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about The Witcher. If I see Indiana Jones, I'm not watching it in the theater. Take that for whatever you want it to mean. But
for legal purposes, he is
for legal,
it.
yeah. If anybody out there, no. But until then, y'all, take it easy.
May the force be with you.
Oh no! Ah!
All right, you take it easy, man. I gotta go. You